Hello, everybody. It's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Rule the Waves 2, our Let's Play series as Italy. It is 1912, and we are in the midst of our second Italian Austro-Hungarian War since this game has begun. For those of you who may not remember, Rule the Waves 2 is a strategy game that puts you in the shoes of a fleet admiral in one of the great powers in the early 1900s up through 1950, and allows you to do things like design your own navies, design your own ships, and manage your budget, help influence tensions, and then fight wars and see how your designs perform. So, in today's episode, we're returning to the war against Austria-Hungary. In our last episode, we suffered a humiliating defeat with one of our battle cruisers going down in flames in the opening battle. In some, I guess I would say, in some reckless play by my part, getting my battle cruiser in a situation where it would clearly get torpedoed, and it was. It was fortuitously named the Time Bomb class battle cruisers, and that was a big loss for us. With that being said, we are in the midst of a war against Austria-Hungary, who we do have a stronger fleet than, at least theoretically. We have 2 battleships to their 2. They have 3 battle cruisers to our 1, so I guess theoretically, in capital ships perspective, they're stronger. 7 battleships to our 3. But the heavy cruisers actually favor them 17 to 10. Light cruisers favor us 15 to 14. Destroyers 30 to 25. Submarines 10 against 10. We're building 16 more. In our first war against Austria-Hungary, we won largely due to submarine warfare, and we'll see if we can replicate that success in this war. Meanwhile, it's 2 months into the war. We have a positive balance of 387. We have ships currently under construction. We actually have 3 more ships about to finish, the Ravenna and the Tortuga, some new light cruisers, and then we've got the battleship Dominus, our new Dominus class battleship here with 10 13-inch guns, and that ship will be coming online in 3 months with a second one to follow shortly thereafter. So that's the situation right now in the war against Austria-Hungary. I don't have enough money to resume, and actually what we could do is we could go ahead and halt some of the destroyer construction, and that'll actually almost, we could break even just on the destroyers. Okay, so we're going to halt construction on a bunch of our destroyers that were already underway. I think we already have some subs under construction done in 7 months. So with that being said, whoa, that gives us a huge monthly surplus. Monthly balance 1.4? I don't think we need that much. I didn't like halt any subs, did I? No, okay, so let's go ahead and resume construction on a bunch of those. Okay, so we'll do that. So we're resumed construction on a bunch of those destroyers, and now the battleships as well. So we should have 2 new battleships coming online inside 4 months, and the war will continue. I don't know if we'll get 4 more months into this episode, though. We're going to go ahead and we're going to play the next turn and see what happens here in the 3rd month of the war. The invention of the eccentric scientist has proven to be of considerable value in their research of hull construction, so that's good to see. Meanwhile, whoa. Okay, so we have 10 operational subs, so do the Austrians, but the Austrians sank no merchant ships this turn. This month, we sank 12 merchant ships with our submarines, which is substantial, and then 15 with our commerce raiders. We had a bunch of light cruisers and obsolete heavy cruisers out there raiding commerce, and so 27 enemy merchant ships were sunk this month. We lost 2 friendly merchants to enemy commerce raiders. They lost 27, 12 to subs, 15 to merchant raiders, 135 victory points, and hopefully that will end up having an impact not on the victory point perspective, but on the home economy. If you can starve an enemy country to the point where their population demands that they end the war. Meanwhile, we have a light cruiser, the Marsala. It's being intercepted by it's intercepting an Austrian raider in the Mediterranean. So let's go ahead and fight that battle and jump in here. Okay, so we're moving into the combat phase. This is just a single ship action. Our light cruiser, the Marcella, is our ship that is going to be fighting this thing out. It looks like we might have some additional coastal batteries, theoretically, but at least in terms of ships, it's just the Marcella. The Marcella is of the Bari class, 3,800 tons, carries 12 5-inch guns, very little in the way of armor. It does have 8 3-inchers as its secondaries, a modest amount of armor, I guess, really, for a light cruiser at 8 2-inches, conning tower 4. Crew quality's -2, apparently. These guys must have been some of our crews that were sort of in reserve ahead of the war breaking out. And torpedoes, we've got 5 submerged, but the poor crew quality is going to be a problem, potentially. Meanwhile, the light cruiser Marcella spots an enemy ship. We'll see what the enemy ship is as we close. It's turning away, which leads me to believe, no, that can't be a heavy cruiser. Is it? No, it's a light cruiser of the Aurora class, which is an Austrian light cruiser. So we'll go ahead and a single ship action. Oh no, did we lose our rudder? Our rudder is jammed. All right, looks like our rudder is fixed. And so we're going to be engaged in a running gun battle, presumably, with this Austrian light cruiser. I don't know. I know we have 5-inch guns. I don't know what the Austrians have. Actually, let's go ahead and pause this. Can we see what they have? So this is the Aurora class that's making 20 knots. It suffered light damage. The Aurora class has 6-inch guns, so they actually hit harder than our 5-inch guns. Our 5-inch guns, let's see here, damage 32%, so we're actually suffering more damage. I think our ship's lighter, too, so the Aurora that we're fighting against has 3 inches of armor as opposed to our 2, makes 21 knots, and is 2,000 tons heavier than our own ship, Marcella, which has already suffered considerable structure damage, not as much flotation damage, and it has, the only advantage it has is it has slightly more in the way of guns, but they're of a lighter caliber, and against heavier armor, that's not a recipe for success. The only hope we really have is that we sort of do some damage with our superstructure hits that we score, and that pays off. But again, I doubt the Austrians have a -2 crew quality. So with that being said, let's go ahead and break off here and see if we can get away. Or if he's going to chase us. Looks like he's going to chase us. And he's faster than us too, so he's keeping the range out there, a little bit longer range. He's got that advantage. Now, the one positive is he probably doesn't have as much ammo on his ship as we do, but we'll also burn through that ammo a lot quicker. I guess at nighttime we might be able to close more easily with him, theoretically, although it looks like he's running away now. So, modest breeze, overcast weather. We can see the visibility dipped, and as a result, he's running away. He suffered medium damage, actually. So, I mean, so did we, too, but I wonder if we actually did more than we thought against him. Probably lost him, though, so we'll see what happens with that battle. This ship was in the Western Mediterranean. They get a marginal victory out of that. We suffered medium damage. They suffered light damage, apparently. And so they get a marginal victory. Okay, well, we can live with that. So it wasn't decisive or anything. A very small battle, 78 victory points to 49. And I think that was the only thing that occurred that month. So the rest of our fleet's still getting work backed up. The crew quality's still pretty poor, but over time that should improve. Meanwhile, we're still negative 900,000 per month in our budget. Our funds are at 4.5 million, though. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spend 3.2 million on building larger docks, because we can afford it this turn. So let's go ahead and move forward another turn, and we'll have some light cruisers coming off the ways this turn. A rebellion against the Americans in the Philippines is continuing. The light cruiser Ravana is commissioned. The Tortuga is also being commissioned into the Navy. Meanwhile, this turn, 1 friendly merchant ship was sunk by 9 enemy submarines. 4 merchants were sunk by enemy commerce raiders. The Austrian light cruiser Admiral Spahn sinks 4 Italian merchant ships in the Mediterranean. Fortunately for us, while we did lose 5 ships that turn, our submarines made up for it and sank 12 enemy ships, so we still came out ahead, 60 to 25 in terms of victory points, 12 to 5 in terms of ships lost. We did lose 1 submarine. So it looks like there's going to be a fleet battle against Austria-Hungary in the Adriatic. If we decline this battle, we will probably end up blockaded, and I'm going to go ahead and fight it, I guess. Well, maybe that's not wise. But wise or not, we're going to fight it. The good thing about the Adriatic is you do have room, in theory, to be able to retreat if you have to. So in this engagement, we have our battleships lined up here. We've got the Imperator and the Roma, both are of Dreadnought classes. We have the Geo Caesar and the Conte Cavour and the Butcher of the Butcher class. If you remember, the Butcher class is a pretty solid pre-Dreadnought battleship class. 4 12-inch guns, 14 8-inch guns, all in turrets, very heavy armor, good speed. I think it makes 20 knots. The Roma class, meanwhile, of the Imperator class makes about 22 knots as well, 10 13-inch guns. So those are pretty heavy main battery guns. I don't know what the Austrians have, but that's something to consider. And I think we've got a battle cruiser out here somewhere. We've got some heavy cruisers out here. The battle cruiser Time Bomb is out here, the surviving ship of its class. And that one has 10 12-inch guns and makes a good speed as well. So that's the situation. We're going to go ahead and start the engagement, and we're going to, all right, unknown ship spotted. Where? Off on our left. We'll go ahead and crank these guys up to squadron max. Okay, we're going to send our battle divisions out this way. 22 knots for our pre-Dreadnought battleships. That is pretty damn impressive. Take that, Jackie Fisher. All right, so we're some initial salvos are being traded. It looks like the initial reconnaissance is saying it's a heavy cruiser. We've also sighted an enemy battle line off our left flank. So we are proceeding in our original course. I mean, we're probably going to be outgunned here. It looks like this must be their scouting force up here. But I think the hope is that we just, you know, we have some good luck initially, and that maybe that results in positive, you know, we got to sink a dreadnought of theirs and not lose any of ours. That's got to be the objective here. Meanwhile, you can see the ships are coming in here. Enemy battleships. There's an enemy battle line. Okay. All right, the Imperator class is getting their T crossed, so we're going to have them pull back. Refuse their line. I don't know why I'm sailing the Genoa straight into the enemy battle fleet. Certainly will distract their fire, but it's probably going to get itself sunk. All right, so Laverno's out of range. Battle Division 8. I don't know where our... So now we're kind of crossing the T of these enemy heavy cruisers of the Rab class, although they're going to turn back against us, so they are not just allowing themselves to be... I don't know where the rest of my fleet is. Mainly I'm concentrating on these pre-Dreadnought battleships and dreadnoughts to command most of what we're doing. Okay. I'd like to close in on an enemy battleship and try and sink one, but there are quite a few enemy destroyers around here. We've got the battlecruiser Butcher, which is kind of coming up also under AI control. Looks like the Roma had a turret disabled. I am bobbing and weaving a bit back and forth to avoid enemy torpedoes. I don't know where the rest of their fleet... Oh, shit. Their fleet isn't really coming on all that aggressively. Although now we've got a bunch of battleships here. You can see the Roma is getting hit a couple of times here. You can see Roma superstructure hit. Der Erstog Franz Ferdinand hit. So the advantage here is it looks like the end of this enemy line is mostly pre-dreadnoughts, which from a like warfare perspective, obviously they're obsolete in some senses, But in the other sense, like, a pre-dreadnought still has a shit ton of tonnage, which counts for victory points, counts for prestige. If you lose a bunch of them, you still, you know, lose a bunch of that. So if we can sink some enemy pre-dreadnoughts, I guess the one negative is, in theory, it does open up a fair bit of enemy resources or money they can spend on new dreadnoughts. Enemy Erste Franz Ferdinand, which is here, I believe, just hit by a torpedo. So we're going to go for this other pre-dreadnought battleship, because I'm pretty sure that the Erste will be finished off. It's hit by another torpedo, so our destroyers are ravaging it. So that's a good start. All right, we're going to move these guys up this way. So the Romas and the Butchers doing some good work. Now they're chasing their Erzherzog Karl class pre-dreadnought, which I have to imagine they would be faster than, but it doesn't seem like it at this stage. There is some fire that's being traded on the further away enemy pre-dreadnoughts. I wish we would focus on the closer one. Okay, so this is a stern chase. Good thing is, so far, no flash fires reported. I should probably check in on the damage situation, but given our battleships are still making 22 knots, I think that means we're probably doing okay. Looks like the Erste Karl class is slowing down. So maybe we would be able to head it off here. Now, the running parallel part is a little bit risky if the enemy ship does have torpedoes, but I'm gambling that the battleship... I've never seen a battleship effectively use torpedoes, so the hope here is that it doesn't really have them, or that if it does, it can't use them very well. You can see here we've cut it off from its line of retreat. Over here is an Austrian port, and we can't progress into this blue area, presumably because of mines or other things like that. So we've cut it off from where it's trying to go back to its port, where it's trying to retreat to safety, and now we have 4 battleships. We've got the Contra-Corvor, we've got the Geo Caesar, and the Roma and the Imperator, 2 dreadnoughts, 2 pre-dreadnought battleships, hitting this enemy ship very hard at very close range. Hopefully some of our destroyers swoop in here and fire some torpedoes. I haven't issued the flotilla attack. There we go. Hitting it with torpedoes. It should be a goner. Another torpedo, so I think we can feel pretty confident that it is sunk. Meanwhile, it looks like there are some enemy coastal batteries in Pola with some heavy coastal batteries, 11-inch guns. So I don't want to get too close to that. So we're going to move our ships north, and we're not going to come any closer to the coast. I'm going to leave the Erzherzog Karl because I'm pretty sure it's going to sink. Meanwhile, there's a Tiger-class destroyer of ours that looks like it sank. Our destroyers are just swarming the enemy battleship there, like I don't know, some kind of animal that's spotted something that's dying. Looks like some of their fleet is retreating north for whatever reason. They are retreating under some 9-inch coastal batteries, which can do a bit of damage, so we got to be mindful of that. We are also kind of low on ammo. So, alright, so the Erste Karl sank. And now we've got 2 enemy pre-dreadnoughts over here under a 9-inch battery that I don't want to get too close to because I'm assuming that's going to be difficult to knock out. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to just let these guys get away. But we're also pretty much out of ammo. Okay, what I would do for a flash fire on one of his battleships. Okay. Looks like he's retreating back inside his port. Ernst Franz Ferdinand, turret Y, T hit turret flash fire, ship blows up. Austro-Hungary has no ships left at sea. So that was a third pre-dreadnought battleship. So we knocked one of these out with a catastrophic magazine hit just as the battle ends. That is a major victory for Italy. I don't know how much it'll actually change the situation in the war because it wasn't, dreadnoughts that we sank. But this battle right here, if there was a battle that historically would have, if something like this historically occurred, it would very clearly signal the pre-dreadnought battleship is obsolete and cannot stand up to dreadnoughts. And you can see that here today because we had two battleships, two dreadnoughts that were lightly damaged. Our Butcher-class semi-dreadnoughts did very well for themselves. Two of them were lightly damaged. Actually, it doesn't look like we lost any ships. That Tiger-class destroyer was Austro-Hungary's. So Austro-Hungary lost one destroyer sunk, moderately damaged heavy cruiser and battleship. They lost 3 pre-dreadnought battleships. That was half their pre-dreadnought battleship fleet in a single evening. 71,000 points for us versus 68,000 for his. That was huge. A huge defeat for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. If we look here, we can see we sank 3 battleships, 2 in the Division 7, 1 in Division 9. The Zirani here, which is a Erzherzog Karl class pre-dreadnought. This is a good pre-dreadnought. This is actually a quasi-dreadnought, very comparable to our Butcher class. 4 11-inch guns, a little bit lightly armored, but it has 12 8-inch guns. The turrets have 10.5 inches of armor, so the fact that we were able to penetrate that and destroy that ship, that was a very good result. The Erste, that was the Zirni class, or the Zirni. The Erzherzog Franz Ferdinand class, I believe this is the one that had the flash fire. It only has 8.5 inches of turret armor. This is a much older, more obsolete class of pre-dreadnoughts. Only has 9-inch guns on it, so that would explain why we kind of went yardarm to yardarm with them, and they didn't really do much against us. 4 9-inch guns, 10 6-inch guns, so really an under-armored pre-dreadnought, a lot like some of the German pre-dreadnought ships. We sank 2 of them, the Wein and the Erste Franz Ferdinand, and then we sank the Zirni, which was sort of the quasi-dreadnought, the 16,000 tons. The other ones were only 10,000 tons. Nonetheless, a huge victory there, and then we also sank a Tiger, which was one of their destroyers, 500 tons. Looks like an older destroyer, but nonetheless, a victory there. So, huge victory. That should get us back into the game. Italian major victory, gained 2 prestige, 4,400 victory points against 560 enemy victory points. That instantly brings us back out ahead in the lead, although you can still see how important that lone dreadnought loss of ours was. The battlecruiser was worth almost 4,000 victory points all by itself. Still, it puts us ahead, and the 2 prestige points is big for us as well. I think we'll call this battle the death of the Pre-Dreadnought. Not likely what something would be called in the history books, but probably also would be a chapter in the history books about it. So there you go. Huge fleet victory for us. And with that victory, we have blockaded Austria-Hungary. So that if we had declined battle, Italy would have been blockaded by Austria-Hungary most likely if we declined a fleet battle. But because we defeated them in a fleet battle off their coast, and because that battle so dramatically changed the situation in naval power, they went from 7 pre-dreadnought battleships down to 4. That means they only have a 1 advantage in pre-dreadnought battleships in terms of number. And I think that battle directly resulted in them being blockaded. I think. I could be wrong, but that's the way I'm reading it right now. So 2 prestige, a huge victory for us. Some light cruisers coming off the way, freeing up almost $2 million in budget. So let's go ahead and let's resume the construction on these ships. I can't afford all of them, so we're going to have to halt the construction on some of the light cruisers, which are still a year out. And then we'll also halt it on some of the destroyers. The ones that are closer to 9 months we'll let keep going, at least the cruisers, that is. And in 2 months, we'll have 2 more dreadnoughts that should even more decisively turn the war in favor of us now after that huge victory. Again, we're relatively equal now in terms of pre-dreadnoughts, and they still have an advantage in dreadnoughts and battle cruisers. But that was a big win for us here 4 months into the war. So the war had started poorly, but for us, but the war has turned less poor for us. A big victory there. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward to the next month. Our scientists report that they're well on their way to understanding destroyers of up to 900 tons displacement. Our submarine SSC Valia has torpedoed and sunk the Austrian destroyer Cespel. And then our submarines also sink another 13 enemy merchant ships. Our commerce raiders sink another 4 enemy merchant ships. We lose 2 merchant ships of our own. The AI must not be deploying many ships to commerce protection, because we are just 17 more of their ships sunk to only 2 of ours, 85 to 10 in terms of victory points. Italian raider light cruiser Taranto sinks 2 Austrian merchants in the Mediterranean. The Venzia sinks 2 Austrian merchants in the Mediterranean. The heavy cruiser Kaiser Karl VI thwarts one of our light cruisers attacking a merchant. It does it again with the La Spezia. And then the patrolling ship light cruiser Vulcan thwarts an Italian raider, the Messina. So yeah, a lot of commerce raiding action here. In a battle between the Germans and Austrian navies, the Austrian corvette Rosa L and the German light cruiser Peleliu have been sunk. Okay, whatever. So a light cruiser of the German Navy has been sunk. This is an AI battle. Remember, we're allied to the Germans. And so sometimes when you have an ally, you do get these random events where ships can be sunk. I don't think it influences victory points, but it can slightly alter the naval makeup. But the Austrians losing a corvette won't matter. I guess the Germans losing a light cruiser could be useful if we ever go to war with them. Meanwhile, an Austrian ship intercepts the Italian raider Salerno in the Mediterranean, so we're going to go ahead and fight that battle. Once we're done with that battle, it'll probably be the end of this episode. So there's our light cruiser, the Salerno. What class of ship is the Salerno? The Salerno is another Bari class, 3,800 ton. So we'll have to see what the enemies bring into play. All right, so unknown ship spotted. Salerno max speed is only 21 knots. We're thinking it's another enemy light cruiser. It is the Spawn class. The enemy's Spawn class consists of what? 8 6-inch guns. So it's just a slightly weaker armed ship, slightly smaller than the last one that we fought, but it makes 22 knots. So it can, if we don't damage it, it can run away. Now, obviously, damage can change how fast it can go, so we'll have to see how this plays out. It does have heavier guns, but we do have more guns in a broadside. I didn't check crew quality, but it looks like the Spawn is actually already slowing down pretty considerably. We're hitting it with a bunch of shells in the stern. We're presenting our broadside to it, but it is, we are getting our broadsides in on it, but we're not allowing it to fire its broadsides on us. And, wow, this might have been a pretty quick battle. I don't know if we got like an early hit on its power plant or something, but we just hit the enemy ship with a torpedo. And it sunk. So victory, Italian major victory. Austrian light cruiser Salerno sunk to light damage of our own, and another Austrian ship goes to the bottom. So that must have been a little bit lucky. Italian major victory. No prestige gain, but a 500 advantage in victory points there. We're now up by 1,000 in our victory point tally. The Almanac has us ahead in light cruisers by 4 now, with their sinking. In tonnage, we're ahead by about 7,000 tons on the light cruisers. The Bari class is doing pretty well for being a 1901 ship. Now, as a reminder, it is considered obsolete because it is over 10 years old, and it can only make 21 knots, and it's relatively small. We have most of these guys out here on raiding duties, but they're doing well for themselves, despite the fact that even the Salerno there had a poor crew because it was in the reserve fleet for so long. So I guess that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Meanwhile, ships under construction, we've got 2 battleships that are going to be completing next turn. We are in the red. Our budget is in the red, so we are going to go ahead and halt construction on one of our light cruisers and on the remaining destroyers, at least for the one more turn until that battleship is completed. Once the battleship is completed, we will be massively in the black in terms of funding. The submarines are churning their way toward completion. We started this episode with 10. We're down to 9. We have lost 1 to enemy action. Nonetheless, they're doing a very effective job of suppressing commerce on the Austrian end. I don't have anything really to plan for from like a invasion perspective. I don't think we can invade Austria-Hungary proper from an invasion planning perspective. Yeah, I can't make it an invasion target because it's the basic, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, but essentially the heartland of a country is not attackable per se. I should really keep an eye on the nation data for our country to see if the base resources go up if we win a victory. Because, I mean, it's not to say that we will win a victory, but things are going well. You can see the Austrians are building 2 more dreadnoughts, so it'll be interesting to see when those are completed. They're building 8 more light cruisers. They're building 21 destroyers. They're building 16 submarines, which really could change the course of the battle. Or actually, no, that's us. I'm dumb. What are the Austrians building? No battleships, no battle cruisers. No heavy cruisers, no light cruisers. They are building 8 destroyers, 1 corvette, 3 AMCs, no submarines, interestingly enough. And they have a lot of coastal batteries that have really not done anything. So, okay. Yeah, so that's the situation right now. I guess we'll have to see how things play out. But this was a very good turn. The Death of the Dreadnought. I think that'll be the name of this episode. Let me know, guys, if you guys want to see more of this. If you want to see more Rule the Waves. It's been a while since our last episode. There have been a lot of other things coming out. Tomorrow I plan to show some Field of Glory Empire, which comes out tomorrow. And then on Friday we'll probably show some HMS Her Majesty's Ship, which is a new game coming out by Every Single Soldier, which is kind of a crew management game and an Age of Sail warship. But apparently, according to the developer, he's also working on a DLC for that game that'll bring it forward to the Dreadnought era. So instead of managing a Age of Sail ship, you'll have to manage a Dreadnought, which could be kind of cool. With that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. I hope you guys enjoyed. Obviously, let me know your thoughts below. And Viva Italia. I know that's a French thing, but, the war, in our last episode, the war was not going well. In this episode, I am giddy. The war is going splendidly, and long live Italy. But until next time, guys, this is the Historical Gamer saying, once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'm out.